The Kings front office promises to bake you another big helping of failure to eat next season. UCLA's quarterback room gets surprisingly deep with talent, and LAFC appears to have suffered a self-inflicted wound in goal. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. So it is May 7th, 2024. Welcome back to the Sanctum Sanctorum of LA Sports. And we have added new subscribers to the Angeleno Familia yesterday. Thank you for getting in on the ground floor. We're going to do our best to keep you informed. And if you like being in the know about LA Sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It lets you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means, comment. By the way, we are going to talk a lot of Kings hockey today. When I normally post Kings tapes, they are not all that watched compared to, say, football and whatnot. But this topic matters. And before we get to that topic, we're going to take a look at the scoreboard. Walker Buehler's return after 20 months was the mixed bag you would expect it to be, if you know a little bit about baseball. He threw 77 pitches in 4 innings, allowed 3 earned runs. So his ERA sucks right now. 4 strikeouts and no walks, pretty good. 7 base hits allowed. Did not matter. They let Walker Buehler work things out. Dodgers 6, Miami 3. So Buehler didn't get the win. Ryan Yarbrough did. But 4 Dodgers homered, including Shohei Ohtani's major league leading 11th, and Teoscar Hernandez is 9th. Meanwhile, today, Miami's at the Dodgers again at 7. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is 3-1 with a 2.91 ERA. Edward Cabrera is 1-1 with a 6.05 ERA. But let's get to the news. Embattled Kings general manager Rob Blake finally faced the music after another first-round faceplant to Edmonton and pretty much said all the wrong things. The Athletic described it as Blake doubling down on his bet. But if you look at it from what he was talking about, it's actually more like tripling down, quadrupling down. For example, there will be no changes at all in terms of who the main decision makers are for the Kings. And if you want to start off with the ingredients to bake yourself a nice 3-layer failure cake, that's what you would do, absolutely. The very first ingredient, no changes. Now, Blake wasn't going to resign his position, which he's held for 10 years in public. I mean, you don't go and have a press conference and say, "Hi, everybody, I suck. I apologize. I'm out." Nobody does that. The most public humiliation you get when you're fired in a sports front office gig is a bland social media post thanking you for all your contributions to a decade of mediocrity and sadness. That didn't happen. But when you look at Blake's results, wouldn't it be wise for him to say, you know what? Maybe I need one contrarian. Maybe I need one naysayer to express skepticism on another big ticket trade or free agent signing. Nope. No. Rob Blake knows more than any of us. Now, you almost have to wonder if Blake's answers in that, when you look at it from that perspective, you almost have to wonder if Blake's answers were given in defiance of us all. For example, he claimed he saw progress last year. Where? Where was their progress? The Kings keep, after having one of the game's elite farm systems, they keep finishing with one of the lower spots in the playoff bracket. There's no progress there. 2 years ago, they took the Edmonton Oilers to 7 games in the first round. Last year, it went from 7 games to getting eliminated in 6. This season, it went from 7 to 6 to being eliminated in 5. Now, that is the precise opposite of progress. I will concede that if you played in the NHL, you know more about hockey than I do. But I don't know how you could call that progress unless you're found outside of a crack house with a syringe in your arm. Moreover, the Kings said Blake said that the Kings will not buy out the contract of the profoundly unimpressive Pierre-Luc Dubois, nor did Blake say that they were going to consider trading this sluggard. Pierre-Luc Dubois, who will be the highest paid player on the roster next year, with 16 goals in his first season in LA. 16 for the so-called heir apparent to Ange Kopitar. For the guy who was supposed to be a franchise cornerstone, but wound up getting demoted to the fourth line and didn't even take a single shot against the Edmonton Oilers net in the last 3 games of the series. Would you like another slice of Rob Blake failure cake? Pierre-Luc Dubois is just 25 years old, and he's already been chased out of 2 other cities because he keeps falling asleep on the ice. Blake may be the only guy who thinks he can unlock the potential of a chronic sluggard. Winnipeg couldn't wait to get rid of Rip Van Dubois because the best he could do up there was 63 points. He comes to LA, Blake takes him off his hands, the dude slouches his way to 40 points. That is a drop of more than a third from already subpar production. Said Blake, quote, "We need to make him better. He's had a consistent performance over his career so far and deviated from that last year. It's up to us to help him become more productive to us," unquote. But again, that consistent performance is 63 points. That's terrible. The only thing keeping Pierre-Luc Dubois from being compared to Ryan Leaf as one of the game's biggest draft busts, or I should say one of professional sports' biggest draft busts, is because Pierre-Luc Dubois hasn't been thrown in prison yet. That's the only difference in comparison right now. When Blake went out of his way, by the way, to protect Pierre-Luc Dubois, he could not wait to flat out bury prospect Arthur Kaliev, who was once a highly touted winger, but a healthy scratch for much of the second half. Quote, "He didn't help down the stretch here at all, so we're going to have to figure something out with him for sure," unquote. Blake added he doesn't know if Kaliev will remain with the Kings. Now, I'm not sitting there trying to tell you that Arthur Kaliev is the big solution to the Kings' problems. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But you go out of your way to coddle Pierre-Luc Dubois after that, and you just poop all over one of your best prospects. You either protect them both or you poop on them both, especially when the latter one tanked his way through an entire season and the playoffs. Meanwhile, Blake did not divulge specific steps as to how the Kings could improve for next year, which I understand. Because last year's roster was so pressed against the salary cap, it reminded me of a Sir Mix-a-Lot song asking strippers to put them on the glass. That's how close the Kings were to the cap. He did say, I should say, that the long-term solution in goal, quote, "probably isn't in place in this team right now," unquote. He did not get specific on the future of interim coach Jim Hiller. So all in all, if you are a Kings fan, as I am, I would not blame you if you saw that press conference and got the impression that the front office looks at you as a dupe, as an idiot, as a mark. Team president Luc Robitaille said that they, quote, "hear our fans loud and clear right now," unquote. It is your choice to believe that because honestly, I don't. I have one other thing to mention about the Kings. Galaxy supporters last year boycotted the matches until the owner cleaned house in the front office. As mentioned, the Kings owner also owned the Galaxy. I do not see a boycott of Kings games as there was with the Galaxy last year, because in soccer there are things called supporters groups, and the Galaxy had a lot of them. Those supporters groups got together, said we're going to boycott. That was a massive hit to the Galaxy. There are very few supporters groups in other sports than soccer. The Kings have one, the Royal Army. But they don't have multiple supporters groups that would wind up making Staples Center or Crypto.com Arena super quiet, super vacant. So for Kings fans, the message is clear. Don't believe your lying eyes. All is going according to plan. And that's the memo. Quarterback Demarcus Davis hasn't taken a snap in a college football game because he's only a freshman. And yet he has already landed in his second college program. Davis, who was a four-star prospect from Etiwanda High School out in the IE, has decided to transfer to UCLA after having spent spring ball in Washington. Now, there are practical reasons for Davis to return to SoCal. If you recall, Coach Kalen DeBoer split the Pacific Northwest. He's going to coach over at Alabama. Now, the other reason is that Davis wound up being third on the depth chart after spring ball. I'm not trying to say that Davis is going to be the potential replacement for Ethan Garbers, but it is a deep room of quarterbacks for UCLA. There are two other quarterbacks set to join the Bruins in the recruiting class of 2024. And another one of them is the son of a longtime NFL quarterback. So what I can tell you, though, about Davis compared to Garbers is he has, in a sense, followed Garbers. They both went to Washington and wound up escaping to land at UCLA. Either way, UCLA does have roster holes. I don't believe quarterback is one of them, and that's important. We have been poking holes in LAFC's season, primarily for one reason. Their roster has a lot of holes. It's the inevitable talent drain that comes in a league that is so obsessed with parity, such as MLS. But here is a self-inflicted wound, apparently, from the black and gold. Over the offseason, LAFC let goaltender Maxime Crépeau leave for Portland. And then backup John McCarthy, they let him go to the LA Galaxy. Why? Because they wanted to add Hugo Lloris, a World Cup winner for France, and a guy who was a longtime goalie for Tottenham in the English Premier League. Lovely reputation, lengthy, storied career. Only Lloris, who despite his resume, still is 37 years old. Maybe the worst goalie in MLS. Maybe. If you remove penalty shots, if you remove own goals, both of which very difficult to stop a penalty shot, an own goal is your own team accidentally making a mistake to cost you. Lloris has a goals prevented metric of negative 2.61, which is worst in the league. And by the way, McCarthy's metric, the new Galaxy goalie from LAFC, fifth best. Self-inflicted wound for LAFC. Yet another Dodgers reliever goes on the injured list. Joe Kelly, and the pouty face that angered everyone in South Texas, has a shoulder strain. The LA Times is reporting that the injury is not believed to be serious, but the Dodgers need a week to at least get more information before they decide what to do. Kelly was considered a possibility to close games for LA as recently as Sunday, when Dodgers closer Evan Phillips also went on the injured list. Kelly was on the injured list, by the way, 3 times last season. So what can he tell you? End of the career, more likely to get injured, I would assume. The Clippers stated the obvious, that they want to keep the band together for next year. That would be Paul George, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard. And I suppose that's news. I suppose. But much like a lot of things at the start of the offseason, it's not something that you can take to the bank, because if you wanted George back so bad, this extension would have been handled months ago, and you could focus solely on whether or not you were going to keep James Harden, right? George is eligible for a 4-year extension worth about $220 million. Now, if George chooses to go to another team, he'll lose about $9 million off of that version of a max contract. Leonard, for example, also took a slight cut in pay to stay in Los Angeles. As for Leonard, team president Lawrence Frank told the Scribes that even if the Clippers had advanced out of the first round of the playoffs, the former finals MVP wouldn't have been able to go in any game in the conference semifinals anyway. Frank added they will have to come up with a new plan to keep Leonard's right knee from swelling like it was injected with Cialis. Leonard played 68 regular season games, by the way, which is the most he's played since 2017. Frank added that there is no structural damage to that knee. Finally, with Russell Westbrook, Frank said that he and Coach Ty Lue will talk with him about his role in the future. Now, this makes complete sense because there's no idea what's going to happen with Harden. If Harden goes, Westbrook's probably your starter at guard. LeBron James and Anthony Davis will be consulted about what they would like from a new Lakers coach. This earth-shattering piece of information was dropped into our laps from ESPN's Dave McMenamin. In other breaking news, by the way, San Bernardino is a ghetto. Totally obvious news, guys. Anthony Davis, LeBron James will have their input, and San Bernardino is dangerous. By the way, I would know. I grew up there. Spencer Dinwiddie said he would like to return to the Lakers next season, which is sweet. If only I could remember him playing for the Lakers last year. Do you remember how he was signed as a contingency plan because Gabe Vincent was hurt? I don't remember seeing Dinwiddie making any impact whatsoever. He did actually play 6.8 points per game, 1.9 rebounds per game. Ooh. And former USC basketball player Ozias Sellers has transferred to Stanford. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Are you happy that Rob Blake doesn't see any changes needed to be made for the Kings? Are you? Do you find optimism in UCLA's quarterback room? And if you enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We are talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Cortell Queso production. Take care.